Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be diving into this listener suggestion with you today. It's all about improving English speaking skills,
Yeah,
which is something I know a lot of you are really passionate about.
definitely. And this particular episode that you sent over 10 ways to improve English speaking skills is packed with some really great advice. I think we're going to have a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what I love about this episode is it's not just about it's not just giving you a list of things to do. It really digs into the why behind the tips.
Right, the reasoning behind them.
Exactly. So it's not just about, okay, do this, do this, do this. It's about understanding, okay, this is why this works, and this is how you can actually apply it to your own life.
I think that makes such a difference because when you understand the why, you're more likely to stick with it, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think it just makes it more interesting too, you know? Like you're not just following instructions blindly, you're actually engaging with the material.
Exactly.
So should we jump right in?
Let's do it.
All right, so tip number 1 is speak every day, which sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
But the episode really emphasizes making it a habit, even if it's just for like 15 minutes a day.
You know, that's so important because a lot of people think, oh, I have to speak for hours and hours to get better. But the truth is, even short bursts of practice can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that 15-minute recommendation is really interesting because it actually ties into like the neuroscience of habit formation.
Right. It's not just an arbitrary number.
Exactly. So when you practice consistently, even in those short bursts, you're actually strengthening the neural pathways in your brain that are responsible for speech.
It's like building muscle memory for your tongue.
Yes, exactly. So it's not just about willpower. It's about literally changing the way your brain is wired.
Exactly.
It's so cool. And the episode even suggests talking to yourself, which might sound a little crazy.
I know. I used to think that was so weird.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really great way to just get comfortable with the sounds of English.
Think of it as a vocal warm-up. Yeah, like before you go for a run, you stretch your muscles. Well, talking to yourself is like stretching your vocal cords and getting your brain ready to speak English.
And you know what? The more you practice, even if it's just with yourself as your audience, the less intimidating it will feel to speak English in real-life situations.
For sure, because you'll start to internalize those sounds and rhythms, and it won't feel so foreign.
Right, it'll become more automatic.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on to tip number 2, which is all about listening and imitation. And this is where the shadowing technique comes in. Have you ever tried shadowing?
Oh yeah, shadowing is like my secret weapon.
Really?
Yeah, it's so effective because you're basically training your ear to pick up on the nuances of spoken English.
So how does it work exactly?
Basically, you listen to a phrase in English and then you immediately repeat it, trying to mimic the pronunciation, intonation, even the emotion.
Like you're trying to become a copycat.
Exactly, and it's like learning a dance by watching a professional dancer and trying to copy their every move.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So you're not just learning the steps, you're learning the style and the grace.
Exactly. You start to embody those subtle details that make a language come alive.
I love that. So the episode specifically recommends shadowing along with like movies or TV shows.
Oh yeah. That's the best because it's like you're getting a free language lesson while enjoying your favorite entertainment.
They're killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. And you know what's amazing? Research has actually shown that people who practice shadowing consistently show significant improvements in both pronunciation and fluency.
Really?
Yeah, it's because you're immersing yourself in the authentic flow of the language.
You know, I think that's so important because sometimes language learning apps and stuff can feel a bit artificial.
Oh, totally.
But shadowing brings in that real world element, you know?
Yeah, because you're hearing how native speakers actually use the language.
Exactly. It's not just about textbook grammar. It's about how people actually speak in everyday conversations.
Right.
So speaking of real world application, tip number 3 is all about vocabulary building. And the episode really stresses the importance of not just learning new words, but actually using them in context.
Yeah, because what's the point of knowing a word if you don't know how to use it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how words work in sentences and in different situations.
It's like learning the pieces of a puzzle. They only make sense when you put them together.
That's a great way to put it. So instead of just writing down definitions, The episode recommends trying to use those new words in sentences, or even writing a short paragraph about a topic that interests you.
Yeah, because that way you're actively engaging with the words and cementing them into your memory.
You're making them your own.
Exactly. And you know what I love about this approach is it encourages you to be creative with language.
Right. It's not just about rote memorization.
Yeah, you get to play with words and experiment with different ways of expressing yourself.
I love that. So for our listener out there, I have a little challenge for you. Pick 3 new words you've heard so far in our deep dive and try to use them in a conversation today.
I love that challenge. It's a fun way to make the learning stick.
Exactly. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a big formal conversation.
No, not at all.
It could just be a casual chat with a friend or a family member.
Right, or even just writing a quick email or text message.
Exactly. The point is to just get those words out there and start using them.
The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
Right. And who knows? You might even impress your friends with your newfound vocabulary.
Exactly. Now, speaking of expanding your horizons, the next tip is all about joining English-speaking communities.
This is one of my favorites because it's all about getting out there and actually using your English in real-life situations.
Right, and it's so important because you can only learn so much from textbooks and apps.
You got to get out there and actually interact with people.
Exactly, and the episode mentions joining local language clubs, attending meetups, or even connecting with people online in English-speaking forums or social media groups.
There are so many options these days.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's all about creating opportunities for what's called comprehensible input.
Comprehensible input.
Yeah, it basically means surrounding yourself with language that you can mostly understand even if you don't catch every single word.
So it's not about striving for perfect comprehension right away.
No, not at all. It's about exposing yourself to authentic English and gradually absorbing those patterns and structures.
It's like how children learn their first language.
Exactly. They're immersed in a sea of language and they pick it up naturally through exposure and interaction.
And you know what? It's not just about language learning. It's also about connecting with people and experiencing different cultures.
Absolutely. It's about broadening your horizons and making new friends.
Think about a time when you learned a new skill. Did you just read about it in a book, or did you also actively engage with it?
Oh yeah, hands-on experience makes such a difference.
Totally. And it's the same with language learning. You got to get out there and use it.
Exactly. The more you use it, the more confident you'll become.
I remember when I was learning to play the guitar, I could read all the books and watch all the videos, but it wasn't until I actually started playing that I really started to get better.
Right. It's all about that hands-on experience.
Totally. And that actually brings us to our next tip, which is record yourself.
Oh, this is a good one.
I know. It might sound a little intimidating at first.
Yeah, I used to hate hearing my own voice recorded.
Me too. But the episode really makes a strong case for why it's so valuable.
Because it gives you that objective feedback you can't get from just speaking in your head.
It's like holding up a mirror to your speech.
Exactly. You start to notice things you might not have been aware of before.
Like maybe your pronunciation of a certain sound or the way you pause between phrases.
Yeah, or even just the overall flow of your speech.
And the great thing is you can track your progress over time.
Imagine listening back to a recording you made 6 months ago. You'd be amazed by how much you've improved.
That's so true. It's like taking a snapshot of your speaking skills at different points in your journey.
Yeah. It's really motivating to see how far you've come.
And you know what? The episode even emphasizes that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. In fact, it encourages learners to embrace those mistakes as opportunities for growth.
Because that's how we learn, right?
Exactly. When we make a mistake and then we correct it, that knowledge tends to stick with us more effectively.
It's like stumbling on a hiking trail.
Right. You're less likely to trip over that same route again.
Okay, so let's talk about technology. Tip number 6 is all about using technology to your advantage.
Oh, yeah. There are so many amazing tools and resources available these days.
I know the episode mentions language learning apps, speech recognition software, all sorts of things.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, totally. What are your thoughts on how technology can best be used to support language learning?
Well, I think it's important to remember that technology is a tool. It's not a magic solution.
Right. It's not going to do the work for you.
Exactly. You still have to put in the effort.
But it can definitely make the process easier and more enjoyable.
And more effective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, translation apps can be helpful in a pinch, but relying on them too heavily can actually hinder your progress.
Because you're not really learning the language, you're just relying on the app to do the thinking for you.
It's like using a calculator for every math problem.
Yeah.
You might get the answer quickly, but you're not really developing your own computational skills.
That's a great analogy.
So in terms of technology,
Hmm.
where do you see the most value for language learners?
I think podcasts and audiobooks are fantastic for passive immersion.
Yeah, you can listen to them while you're commuting, exercising, doing chores.
It's like surrounding yourself with a constant stream of English, even when you're not actively studying.
And it's a great way to improve your listening comprehension without even realizing it.
You know, it's funny. I'm a huge audiobook fan.
Really?
Yeah, and I've noticed that my English has actually improved just from listening to audiobooks regularly.
That makes sense. It's like you're absorbing the language through osmosis.
Yeah. And you know what else is great about audiobooks and podcasts? They often cover a wide range of topics.
So you can find something that you're actually interested in.
Exactly,
Right.
which makes the learning process more enjoyable and engaging.
Okay, so tip number 7 is one that I find particularly intriguing. Think in English.
Oh yeah, this is a game changer.
The episode really emphasizes the importance of shifting away from translating everything in your head.
And instead, training your brain to think directly in English.
It's like switching gears in your brain, right?
Exactly. At first, it might feel a bit awkward and unfamiliar.
Like driving a car with the steering wheel on the wrong side.
Yes. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
And you'll start to notice that you can respond more quickly and spontaneously in conversations.
Because you're not spending time mentally translating back and forth.
Right. You're thinking in English, so you can speak in English more fluently.
Exactly. Do you have any tips for how learners can start incorporating this think in English approach into their daily lives?
Oh yeah, start small. You know,
Like what kinds of things?
like try naming objects around you in English. Or having a silent conversation with yourself in English about your day.
Or even just thinking about your to-do list in English.
Yeah, and here's a challenge for our listener out there. Try making your grocery list in English this week.
I love that. It's a practical and fun way to start integrating English into your daily routine.
Exactly. And you know what? It reminds me of something I read about neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah, it's the brain's ability to change and adapt.
Hmm.
The more we practice thinking in English, the more we're strengthening those neural pathways and making it easier to access the language.
Oh yeah, it's like creating a well-worn path in the forest.
Yeah,
The more you walk it, the easier it becomes to follow.
exactly. Okay, moving on to tip number 8, we have read aloud.
Hmm.
Now, this might seem like a pretty basic suggestion,
Yeah.
but the episode emphasizes its effectiveness for improving pronunciation, intonation, and overall confidence.
I think it's because it engages multiple senses. You know, you're not just seeing the words, you're hearing them, and you're feeling the physical movements of your mouth as you pronounce them.
It's like a full body experience.
Yeah, and that multisensory approach helps solidify those pronunciation patterns in your brain.
It's like practicing a musical instrument.
Yeah.
The more you play those notes, the more fluid and effortless your performance becomes.
Exactly, and I think reading aloud can also help with rhythm and intonation.
Those subtle nuances that make spoken English sound so natural.
Right, it's like adding punctuation to your speech.
Hmm.
Reading aloud forces you to pay attention to the pauses, the rises and falls, in pitch the emphasis on certain words.
It's like adding the spices and seasonings to a dish.
Exactly, those little touches that elevate it from bland to flavorful.
I love that analogy. It makes me want to go grab a book and start reading aloud right now.
Me too.
And, you know, the episode even suggests trying to embody the characters' voices and emotions when reading dialogue.
Oh yeah, that's a fun way to make it more engaging.
It turns reading into a performance.
Exactly. And it's a great way to break free from the monotony of just reading words on a page.
You can experiment with different accents, different tones of voice, different emotional expressions.
You're like giving your voice a workout.
Okay, on to tip number 9. And this one is all about mindset. Focus on fluency, not perfection.
This is so important.
I know, I think this is a message that every language learner needs to hear.
Especially those who might be feeling discouraged by their mistakes.
Because perfectionism can be a real roadblock in language learning.
Oh, for sure.
It's important to remember that even native speakers make mistakes.
All the time.
Exactly. And fluency is about being able to communicate effectively.
It's not about speaking perfectly.
Think of it like a dance performance.
Okay.
The goal is to convey the emotion and the rhythm of the music,
Right.
not to execute every step flawlessly.
It's about the overall feeling.
Exactly. And it's the same with language.
Yeah, it's about getting your message across.
Not about being grammatically perfect.
And you know what? That ties into the concept of a growth mindset. Viewing mistakes as opportunities for learning rather than as failures.
It's a total game changer.
Yeah, and it can completely transform your approach to language learning.
It's about celebrating the progress you're making, no matter how small it might seem.
And focusing on the journey, not just the destination.
Okay, and finally, we arrive at the 10th and final tip, which is find a mentor or coach.
Ah, this is a good one.
The episode acknowledges that sometimes having personalized guidance can make all the difference in our language learning journey.
Because everyone learns differently.
Right. And a mentor can help you tailor your learning to your specific needs and goals.
It's like having a personal trainer for your language skills.
Exactly. They can help you identify your strengths and weaknesses, create a personalized learning plan, provide feedback and encouragement along the way.
And hold you accountable.
Yes, accountability is so important.
Because it's easy to get sidetracked or lose motivation when you're learning on your own.
But having a mentor can really help you stay on track.
And you know what, the episode even points out that even experienced language learners can benefit from the guidance of a skilled mentor.
Because there's always more to learn.
Right. A mentor can help you delve deeper into the nuances of the language, expand your vocabulary, refine your pronunciation.
They can open up new doors and possibilities for your language learning journey.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into these 10 tips, I'm curious to hear what's resonated most with you.
Yeah. What tips have sparked your interest, and which ones are you most excited to try?
I think for me, it's the emphasis on making English a part of your daily life, not just something you study in isolation.
I love that.
Whether it's through speaking, listening, reading, or even just thinking in English.
Right.
Those small, consistent actions can have a profound impact on your fluency and confidence over time.
I couldn't agree more. It's about weaving English into the fabric of your life, making it a natural and enjoyable part of your daily routine.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this episode so valuable.
Yeah, it's not just about giving you a list of things to do.
It's about inspiring you to embrace the language.
And to make it your own.
Exactly.
And for our listener out there, I have one final challenge for you.
Okay, I like it.
Choose one action from this episode that you're most excited to try. Write it down. Tell a friend. Set a reminder on your phone.
Whatever it takes to make it happen.
Exactly. And remember, we're here cheering you on every step of the way.
We'd love to hear about your progress, your aha moments, and any new discoveries you make along the way.
Share your experiences with us on social media. And let's keep this conversation going.
Happy speaking.
Until next time, keep diving deep.